All right, guys, today we're going to use clay and different textures or things with different feelings to make stamps. I'm going to start by taking a little piece of clay and I'm rolling it into a ball like that. Now I'm going to pick one of these texture plates. Some of these texture plates have textures from nature. Some of them have man-made textures, like this is like a brick wall. You're going to roll it into a ball and then you're going to set it onto a textury part of the texture plate and press down. When I lift up, what you'll notice is the texture was actually impressed into my clay. I'm going to set that to the side and let it dry. Then I'm going to repeat, but I'm going to use a different texture. Something kind of silly and fun you can do is, I know, crazy, I took my shoe off. You can use your shoe as a texture plate if you like, where I'm pressing my clay into my shoe, and you can see I got that design that's on the bottom of my shoe. And I have enough for probably one more. Rolling it into a ball, finding a texture plate, and pressing it down. I'm gonna let these dry, and next time I see you, we're gonna go ahead and use markers to stamp them. We're gonna make a background for our stamps while we wait for those to dry. Next time I see you, we'll be adding markers to those stamps and putting them on another piece of paper. But today, we're gonna color this bubble wrap, again with markers, and we're gonna use that as a stamp or a form of printmaking. Remember, printmaking is just a fancy way to say stamping. The colors I'm using right now are called the warm colors. They're yellow, orange, and red, and they tend to look good next to each other, and if they blend or mix a little bit, that also looks good. So I'm filling my bubble wrap with those colors. When you're done with that, I'd like you to raise your hand, and I'm gonna come around and I'm gonna squirt your paper with just a little bit of water. You take the bubble wrap and you put the marker side down onto the paper, and then you give your paper or your bubble wrap a little back rub or a tap. Lift it up and it transfers. If your bubble wrap doesn't cover your whole paper, you just re-stamp it so your whole paper is full. Now that will be ready for me to add my stamps during our next class. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp what I made in the last class out of clay. Today we're gonna be using the cool colors, which are the opposite of the warm colors. Blue, green, and purple. And I'm just coloring with the marker on that stamp. I can use more than one color, or I can do it all the same color. But I really wanna make sure I get from edge to edge. Then I'm gonna go to a new piece of paper, flip it over, and just kind of tap the back of my stamp. And when I lift up, you'll notice that it transfers. I'm gonna do each one more than once. So I'm adding more color, flipping it over, and stamping. Some stamps work better than others. So you'll probably notice, for example, that this one looks better than that one. It kind of transferred a bit better. You might start to notice things that you're doing differently that work better when you do your stamp. Now I'm gonna switch to one of my other stamps, and I think I'm gonna add some purple to this one. I remember this is the one I did with my shoe. Flipping it over and pressing. See, again, I don't think that one transferred very well. Maybe I didn't fill it in with color as well as I should have. So this time I'll try to add a little more color than I did last time. That's a little better. Now I'm gonna give you guys a little time lapse, and I'm gonna fill this paper with these stamps, and then I'm gonna show you how we will add them to the backgrounds we made last time. Now I have a paper that's full of those stamps, and the stamps reflect the texture that I pushed the clay into. I'm gonna go around each one of these and cut a circle shape. It doesn't need to be exactly perfect, but you want it to kind of be a general circle, maybe with a little bit of white around the stamp area. Some of them are easier to see than others. If you'd like, I can come around with a marker and draw circles around your stamp to kind of help you get an idea of where to cut it. But for the most part, you're just cutting a circle around each of those stamps. So I'm going to time lapse you again while I work on this, and then I'll show you how we will put all of this together. I wanted to touch base with you guys and show you how I'm going to cut this one here. Sometimes the ones in the middle are a little difficult. So what you can do is cut off that extra paper because we don't need that. That paper is going to go into the recycle anyways when I'm done. So it's totally fine to cut that off. And I have one last one. And again, I have all kinds of extra paper here. So I'm just going to go around here, cut that off. And now I'll do my nice circle around. You'll notice that I'm really turning the paper more than I'm turning the scissors. Now comes time for gluing. I have a lot of circles and I even have the stamps that I created. I'm gonna start by flipping my circle over to the back and I'm tracing around the edge with glue. And then I'm gonna press it into my background. You're gonna notice that the color choices really stand out. I used warm colors in the background and cool colors in the foreground or the front, what's on top. And so I get contrast. Contrast is when something in art is different and you notice it. You can even glue on the stamps you made. That way people really see your process. I'm going to time lapse you again. And then you'll get to see how these will look when we're done. All right, now my artwork is complete. I'm just going to apply some pressure. I can't really flip my paper over right now because I actually have my stamps on here, so the back rub technique won't work. So you can see that I have artwork that's full of texture. Remember, texture is how something feels. My texture plate is bumpy. I have some textures that are natural, like that ladybug that I stamped. I have some that are man-made, like the bottom of my shoe. Some textures that are actually tactile. I can feel them. So this is tactile texture. These textures are implied. The paper is actually flat, but I still see that texture on it. So we'll have all kinds of texture and warm and cool colors when your pieces are complete.